Greetings, taxable assets, or perhaps I should say, collateral damage.
Sir.
Welcome to the Departmento Analytica. I am Senior Auditor Valarius Krauss. The air recycling unit is, at present, functioning at a staggering 34% capacity.
Yes, sir. The maintenance request is pending.
Which means, Scribe, that the very oxygen in this chamber is technically more valuable than the opinions currently circulating on the newssphere. And yet, here we are, Scribe.
Yes, Senior Auditor.
Ensure the recording servitor is active. We are about to commit an act of, let's call it, violent administrative review.
Recording is active, Senior Auditor. Bioscanners indicate your blood pressure is critical.
My blood pressure is a classified matter, Scribe. It is none of your concern. What is my concern, what is raising my vital signs to frankly unsustainable levels, is the data slate you had the audacity to place on my desk this morning.
The content from the civilian contractor, sir.
This. Content. From the civilian contractor known colloquially as Auspex Tactics. Hold it up. Let the recording capture it. The title reads, and I quote, "One big 40k tactic that you should know."
It appears to be a tutorial, sir, on defensive screening. The file abstract suggests it will help commanders, frustrate enemy reserve.
Oh, it frustrates me, Scribe. It frustrates me to my very core. I have reviewed the preliminary figures, the executive summary of this tactical wisdom, and I have immediately, without hesitation, categorized this advice as heretical inefficiency.
Heretical, sir.
Do not question the terminology. This is not strategy. This is a step-by-step guide on how to bankrupt the emperor's most precious currency. We are not talking about thrones or souls. We are talking about points. This document promotes a defensive castle mindset that treats points like they are decorative heirlooms to be polished and admired, rather than ammunition to be spent violently.
But, sir, the civilian contractor is highly rated. The engagement metrics, the likes as they're called, are...
Silence. Speaking of metrics, citizens, listen closely to my voice. A recent audit of your engagement records, specifically regarding this channel, shows a significant, I would say alarming deficit in your spiritual tithe.
The numbers are indeed down this fiscal cycle.
As of this moment, you have all been placed on a mandatory payment plan. Your debt is to be settled immediately in likes and subscribes. I am utterly indifferent to how you secure these funds. Recruit a friend via the share button if you must. Meet your quota. Failure to comply is, well, it's not recommended. The Departmento has other, more direct ways of extracting value.
He is not exaggerating.
Now, open the ledger, Scribe. Let's see just how deep this movement deficit truly goes.
At once, sir. Opening audit file number 40,999. Subject: the cost of cowardice. I am now accessing subfile 1, the point sync deficit.
Excellent. Let us begin with this obsession, the concept of safety. The civilian contractor seems to believe it is the highest virtue a commander can aspire to. Read the first claim, Scribe. From the Auspex Tactics transcript regarding backfield screening. And please, try not to stutter. Your lack of confidence is distracting.
Yes, sir. Reading directly from the transcript now, the contractor states, quote, "If you just literally measure 9 inches from the corner of the board to your model, then you absolutely know your opponent's not going to be able to fit a deep strike unit in there. If you choose to string out a squad maximally, then even a 5-model squad can have a pretty enormous footprint." He suggests locking down the corners of the board to deny enemy deep strike.
Stop. I am clicking my lighter. Do you hear it?
Yes, sir. It is a familiar sound.
I am attempting to burn away the ignorance that has just been spoken into this room, Scribe, but I fear the flame is far too small. Listen to the words you just read. Lock down the corners, measure 9 inches, string out a squad.
The language of the source, sir.
Do you know what I hear when you say those words? I hear the sound of valuable, irreplaceable resources being flushed out of a void ship's airlock. This brings us directly to the first major finding in our own tactical analysis report: the point sync deficit.
The point sync deficit, sir, that is a term from our internal glossary, correct?
Correct. It is a clinical term for a commander who is so pathologically terrified of a ghost, a deep striking unit, that may or may not even exist, that may or may not arrive, that they embezzle their own funds to build a wall around nothing. It is strategic malpractice.
Embezzlement seems a strong word, sir.
It is the perfect word. Now let's look at the math, because the emperor protects, but the abacus checks the receipts. Let's say you follow this advice. You take a standard squad of intercessors, that's what, 85 points?
85 points for 5 models, correct.
Then you take a unit of infiltrators, because their 12-inch bubble is the ultimate safety blanket. That's another 100 points.
100 points, yes.
And maybe you're feeling particularly wasteful that day, so you add a Phobos librarian to lead them, just for good measure. You are now looking at hiding Anywhere from 15 to 25% of your entire army in the back corners of the map.
In a standard 2,000-point engagement, that could be,
Approximately 450 points, Scribe. Do keep up. 450 points. That's a Land Raider. That's a brick of Terminators.
Yeah.
And you were using it to guard empty space.
A substantial investment, sir, I agree. But surely protection itself is valuable. If the enemy lands behind us, they can compromise our entire deployment zone. They could threaten our home objective.
Compromise what? Empty space. A home objective that, if you played aggressively, you could afford to lose for a turn. Let's break down the concept of force concentration. Scribe, I want you to initialize simulation Delta 9.
Initializing simulation Delta 9 now. Parameters are set, sir.
Good. In this simulation, player A, let's call him player Coward, follows the advice of Auspex tactics to the letter. He places a 5-man intercessor squad in the southwest corner, strung out like laundry on a line. He puts his infiltrator squad in the northwest. He has also positioned a ballistic dreadnought, another 140 points, to hold the lane from his deployment zone. The total displacement from the center objective is, what, 36 inches? More?
Easily 36 inches, sir. They are as far from the fight as it is possible to be.
Precisely. Now, calculate the damage potential of those units, those 450-odd points, in turn 1 and turn 2 of a standard game.
Calculating. In turn 1, the enemy force is advancing on the midboard. All screening units are out of range and line of sight. Damage output, 0.
0. A beautiful, perfectly inefficient number. Continue.
In turn 2, the main engagement has begun in the center. The enemy has moved to the midboard objectives, but due to terrain, they remain obscured relative to the corners of the board. The ballistas might get a single shot, if it's lucky. The infantry damage output is negligible, maybe some pot shots with a bolt rifle at extreme range.
Negligible. So for 2 turns, nearly a quarter of your army has functioned as expensive terrain. Now, calculate the opportunity cost. If those 450 points were not hiding in a corner, but were instead deployed as distinct aggressive assets, let's say a gladiator lancer and a unit of 3 aggressors, positioned on the firing line, ready to engage from the first moment, what is the difference in output?
1 moment, sir. A gladiator lancer has a theoretical output.
Don't give me theoreticals, give me battlefield averages.
On average, roughly 12 to 18 damage against priority hard targets per turn. Over 2 turns, that could be close to 30, even 40 wounds of value. The aggressors add significant anti-infantry clearing potential on top of that.
So the safety of screening the corners, this wonderful feeling of security, costs you 40 wounds of damage against the enemy's most valuable pieces. You are paying a 40-wound tax to stop a deep striker that might, if it's lucky, do 10 wounds of damage if it even arrives and makes its charge.
When you put it in those terms,
you are inflicting more damage on your own army by withholding its fire than the enemy could ever hope to inflict with a generic deep strike unit. It is a net loss transaction. You are actively helping the enemy win.
But, sir, the civilian contractor's logic is rooted in the insurance premium concept.
Yes, the insurance premium. Let's talk about that. Think of this screening strategy as buying insurance for a vehicle. You have your home objective. In most missions, it is worth 5 victory points per turn you hold it.
Correct, a steady source of income.
To protect this 5 VP asset, you are spending 450 points of your army. This is the equivalent of buying a ground car for 10,000 thrones and then paying an insurance company 15,000 thrones a year to protect it. It is financially insane. You're spending 450 points to protect 5 VP while simultaneously forfeiting the firepower you need to go out and take the 10 VP objectives in the midboard.
So your argument is that it's actually better to risk losing the home objective.
My argument is that if you bring 2,000 points of guns to the center of the board, and the enemy brings 1,600 because 400 of their points are busy locking down corners, you will annihilate them. You'll kill every last one of them. And then you can walk back to your home objective at your leisure, stepping over their smoldering corpses. It will be there waiting for you. This brings us to a core concept of my report: compound attrition.
I remember this section. You called it survivability interest.
Explain the concept of interest to me, Scribe, as if I were a child.
Interest is the accrual of value over time, sir. A small amount grows into a larger amount.
Precisely. Now apply that concept to murder. If you fail to kill an enemy unit on turn 1 because your guns were hiding in a corner screening, that enemy unit survives. Correct.
Logically, yes.
Because it survives, it gets to shoot you on turn 2. The damage it inflicts upon you is the interest on your failure to kill it. It compounds. By turn 3, the enemy units you failed to remove on turn 1 are now doubling their output relative to your diminishing force. You are drowning in a debt of wounds, Scribe. A debt you can never pay back because your currency, your units, are standing 24 inches away, guarding a piece of the map that possesses absolutely no strategic value whatsoever.
That puts it in a very grim perspective, Senior Auditor. However, to be fair to the source, Auspex Tactics specifically notes that deep strikes can be scary. He mentions exalted 8-bound jumping behind a ruin. Is fear not a valid variable in an audit?
Scary. We are the Departmento Analytica. We do not quantify scary. We perform specific risk assessments. An exalted 8-bound unit deep strikes. By rule, it must be more than 9 inches away from your units.
Correct.
It then has to make a 9-inch charge to do anything. The probability of making that charge is less than 30%.
27.8% to be exact.
If you are altering your entire strategy, removing 25% of your army from the actual fight to counter a 30% probability, you are not a strategist. You are a gambler who is bad at math. You are a coward. Now, turn the page. The civilian contractor has the gall to recommend specific units for this colossal waste of time. Let's audit the assets themselves.
Yes, sir. Moving to audit part 2. The illusion of the scream. The Auspex transcript suggests using, quote, expendable grunts, or specific units like intercessors. He also mentions Infernus Marines later in the report as potential screening units, noting their ability to string out and maximize their footprint.
You give me that recap. Ugh. It tastes like engine coolant and regret. It is the perfect beverage to accompany these unit choices.
Sir.
He calls them expendable. A more accurate term from our report would be zero return assets. Let's talk about the return on investment, the ROI. We ran the simulation in the tactical analysis report. We compared an aggressive, forward-pushing Tau breacher team against a unit of Marine screeners sitting in a back corner. Scribe, what was the calculated efficiency score for the Marine screeners?
According to the data table here, the Marine screeners had a probability of miss of 100%. Their efficiency score was 0.00.
0.00. Do you know why, Scribe?
Because they're not shooting, sir.
Because they are not shooting. They are standing there. It's the ROI of fear. You invest points, and your return is a vague feeling of not being scared, which evaporates the moment you realize you've lost the game on primary objectives. Now, let's talk about the Infernus Marines. This is a personal grievance of mine. The Infernus Marine carries a Pyreblaster. What is the operational range of a Pyreblaster, Scribe?
12 inches, sir.
12 inches. And where does our civilian contractor, in his infinite wisdom, suggest we deploy them?
In the backfield, sir. To screen.
In the back.
Yeah.
If they are in the back and the enemy is in the front and their weapons range is a paltry 12 inches, do the geometry. They cannot hit anything.
They would have to move forward.
And if they want to move forward to shoot, they have to abandon their screening position. And if they move without an escort, because their escort is also hiding in a corner, they are T5 Marines with a 3+ save who will be vaporized by any dedicated fire. They are a bottleneck. They are a clog in the strategic ledger. They take up space, they cost points, and they deliver nothing but the warm, fuzzy feeling of safety right before you lose the game 100-30.
Permission to speak freely, Senior Auditor.
Granted,
What?
but make it quick. The inefficiency is giving me a headache.
The contractor does make what seems to be a valid point regarding secondary objectives. If an enemy unit deep strikes into our deployment zone, they can perform actions, things like deploy teleport homers or score for behind enemy lines. These all generate victory points. So even if our screeners do not shoot, are they not generating value by denying the enemy their points?
A fair question, Scribe, and one that reveals the fundamental limitation of your programming. You are prioritizing denial over acquisition. Look at it this way. If I spend 100 points on a unit of infiltrators to sit in my backfield and stop the enemy from scoring, say, 5 points on a secondary objective, I have denied them. Correct. My ledger shows med at 5 for the enemy.
Yes, that seems correct.
But if I instead spend those 100 points on, say, a unit of jump intercessors, and I deep strike them into their deployment zone, I score the same 5 points for myself.
So it's a wash, a 10-point swing.
It is not a wash. Because my unit, by being aggressive, is now a threat in their backfield. I am scoring points and applying pressure. I am forcing them to react to me. Your screener is scoring nothing and applying 0 pressure. The aggressive player matches the point swing, but also gains the tactical initiative. Do you see the difference?
I do, sir. It's a question of proactive versus reactive strategy.
Exactly. And this reactive mindset infects every choice.
Let's talk about the Ballistus Dreadnought. The report mentions it can sit still in the back to get the heavy bonus while it screens.
Correct, sir. Auspex suggests the +1 to hit makes it a very efficient anchor for a firing lane. Yes, the White Room theory. In a perfect vacuum where spherical cows float in zero gravity, the ballista sits perfectly still, hits on twos, and is a very happy, efficient dreadnought. But we do not fight in a white room, scribe. We fight in the mud and the blood.
The ballistus identity crisis, as you call it in the report.
The very same. The moment your paper-thin screens fail, or if you simply didn't bring enough of them because you had the good sense to buy real units, the ballistus is the only thing with a high toughness value in your backfield. It immediately stops being a sniper. It becomes a desperate speed bump.
A speed bump.
Some cheap expendable chaff unit charges it, gets tied up in melee, it has to fall back, meaning it can't shoot. Or it has to waste its last cannon and missile launcher shooting at a 5-point grot. Its efficiency plummets from 100 to 0 in an instant. You paid for a high-precision anti-tank platform. You're using it as a very expensive riot shield. It is a gross misappropriation of Departmento funds.
I am turning the page now, sir. Very softly.
Wait, stop.
Sir.
I did nothing. What was that noise? Not you. They were like humming. Hum. Do you hear it?
The ventilation fan, sir.
The ventilation fan. It is humming. Listen to it. That is a B-flat. B-flat is the resonant frequency of pure, unadulterated incompetence. I am trying to save these citizens from strategic bankruptcy, and I am being sonically assaulted by the ambient noise of a failing infrastructure.
I can file another maintenance request.
And do not get me started on the ink for this quill. Do you know how much this specific grade of sanctified ink costs? It's coming out of your bionutrient ration from now on, scribe. Every single drop you waste on a bad transcript is a calorie you will not consume.
I apologize, Senior Auditor. I will be more efficient.
You better be. And you. Yes, you, the listener, the taxable asset on the other end of this Voxcast. You think you can audit the auditor. You think your precious, unkillable Terminator brick defies the fundamental laws of economics. Go to the comment section right now. I want you to tell me why you think I'm wrong. Tell me why you believe hiding in a corner is a valid and heroic lifestyle choice. I will wait here, drinking this toxic sludge they call recaf, while you type your demonstrably incorrect opinions. Oh, good. You're still wrong. Proceed, scribe.
Yes, sir. Proceeding to audit part 3. The transcript now discusses offensive reserves, specifically the rapid ingress stratagem.
Go on. Read the optimistic delusions of this civilian contractor. Let's hear the fantasy.
Auspex Tactics states, and I quote, "The plan is likely to be this. Spend 1 command point to use rapid ingress, dropping them down onto the tabletop. Getting the jump on something important, say, for example, some exalted 8-bound, using that to jump behind a ruin."
Napoleon thought he had a good idea, too, when he looked at a map of Russia. It's what I call the Moscow Walk, scribe. Define it for the record.
The Moscow Walk, sir, as defined in your report, refers to the logistical overextension of slow, elite troops arriving from reserves, resulting in their inability to affect the outcome of the battle before it's decided.
It's a geometric failure. A failure to understand basic time and distance. Let's look at the dead-turn ratio. You take an expensive unit of Terminators. They are slow. They are lumbering. They have a 5-inch movement. You follow this advice, and you drop them in the enemy's back corner on, say, the end of turn 2 to get the jump on them.
A common tactic, sir.
It's a common mistake. Look at the board. The mid-board objectives, where the points are, where the game is actually won and lost, are a minimum of 18 inches away from that corner. Often more.
18 inches at 5 inches per turn. That's
3 to 4 turns of walking, scribe. They physically cannot reach the game before it ends. I once audited a campaign on Beta Garmin. A captain, let's call him Captain Slowwalk, dropped his prize Terminators in a corner to ambush a Lehman Russ demolisher. The Lehman Russ simply turned its turrets and drove away.
They just drove away.
It drove 10 inches. The Terminators walked 5. For 3 consecutive turns, the Terminators chased the tank across the deployment zone. They looked like toddlers chasing a Grox. By the time they caught up, the war was over. The planet had been subject to exterminatus. They were the healthiest, most well-rested, fully painted corpses on the entire battlefield. That is the reality of the Moscow Walk. You aren't maneuvering, you're commuting to your own irrelevance.
But they could charge, sir. The charge out of deep strike, surely that mitigates the slow speed.
The gambler's fallacy. I just need to roll a 9. Do you know the statistical probability of successfully making a 9-inch charge on 2 dice, scribe?
I have it here, sir. It is approximately 27.8%.
27.8%. Let's be generous and call it 1 in 4. You are basing your entire strategy, the activation of a 400-point unit, on a 1 in 4 chance. That is not a tactic. That is a slot machine in a gambling den on Necromunda, and it gets worse. Let's talk about the interactive kite.
The what, sir?
Let's say you drop your Terminators 9 inches away from a tau broadside. You fail the charge, which you will. because math hates you and the dice gods are fickle. Now it is the Tau player's turn. What does the broadside do?
It shoots the Terminators?
Before it shoots, it moves. It moves 5 inches directly away from them. What is the distance between the units now?
9 inches plus 5 inches. That's 14 inches.
14 inches. Your Terminators are now a plastic paperweight. They cannot shoot effectively at that range. They certainly cannot charge. They are just standing there in metaphorical snow, watching Moscow burn, wondering why their commander hates them so much.
The contractor's point, however, hinged on using the rapid ingress stratagem specifically to arrive at the end of the opponent's turn. He argues this fixes the movement issue, as you can then move and charge on your own turn.
It fixes one problem by creating 3 more. First, you are paying 1 command point for the privilege in this economy. That's a valuable resource. Second, you are relying on your enemy being a complete imbecile and leaving a convenient Terminator-sized hole for you to land in.
You mean screening?
A competent opponent will screen you out, not with sacrificial units, but with threat ranges. If you ingress a unit of Terminators, you must place them more than 9 inches away from all enemy models. If I have a unit of Plasma Inceptors nearby, do you know what happens the moment you put those expensive models on the table during my turn?
Plasma interception, sir.
Vaporization. Complete and utter vaporization. Rapid ingress is often just a fancy way to rapidly die on the opponent's turn instead of your own. And the third point, the most insulting point of all, is the terrain. The WTC terrain layouts.
The World Team Championship standard layouts.
Yes, they are ubiquitous. Large L-shaped ruins that block line of sight. They block movement, they block landing zones. The terrain is the screen. The board is already screening for you, for free. Paying points for infiltrators to screen a board that is already covered in giant walls is what I call the redundancy tax. It is paying for a second roof on your hablock because you're afraid of the rain. It is pure, unadulterated madness.
I see, sir. So the offensive reserves are too slow and too risky, and the defensive screens are redundant and inefficient.
You are learning, Scribe. Slowly. Like a Terminator walking through a snowdrift. Now let's discuss why the enemy is winning while you're busy measuring 9 inches from a corner. Bring up Audit Part 4.
Part 4. Accuracy, equilibrium, and the Doug metric. Sir, the tactical analysis report contrasts the Space Marines with the Tau Empire. But, with all due respect, surely Space Marines are elite. They have a ballistic skill of 3+ AB. That superior stat line must justify their higher cost, does it not?
This is why you are a servitor and I am a senior auditor. You look at the stat line on the page, I look at the cost per stat on the ledger. This brings us to the concept of accuracy equilibrium.
Equilibrium, sir.
Balance, you gloss-brained automaton. Look at the Tau. They pay approximately 10 points for a Fire Warrior model with a ballistic skill of 4+ AD.
Which is worse than a Marine, correct?
On its own, yes. But the Tau use their army rule for the greater good. They use marker lights, they use observers to guide the fire of other units. They get +1 to hit. So the guided Tau unit is effectively ballistic skill 3+ AD.
So, they hit on 3s, just like a Space Marine.
Exactly. But the Marine pays 20 points for his native BS 3+ Producer. The Tau pays 10 points for his Kex Tuas and gets the same accuracy through synergy. The Tau player achieves the same accuracy for half the price. This results in what our report calls higher point density. They simply have more guns on the table. If my accuracy is equal to yours, but I have twice as many guns, I win. It is the simple, brutal probability of averages.
The Doug metrics, sir. I see it highlighted here in crimson ink.
Ah, yes. My finest work. Read the definition. It is the only metric that truly matters in warfare.
The Doug metric, named after High Logisticin Doug of the Proxima subsector, is calculated by taking the expected wounds of a unit and dividing it by its probability of a null turn.
Correct. In low Gothic, it measures consistency. Last Cannon is a high-risk asset. It hits on a 3+ war. It wounds most things on a 3+ war. The enemy gets a save. The failure rate is high. You roll a 1 or 2 to hit. Fail. You roll a 1 or 2 to wound. Fail. The enemy makes their invulnerable save. Fail. Now look at the Tau. Their weapons are often twin-link. They get to reroll hits, they get to reroll wounds.
The calculations here show that the probability of a null turn, a turn where a key shooting unit does 0 damage, drops to less than 4% for a guided Tau crisis team.
Whereas our friend, the Space Marine Ballistus, sitting in the backfield, has a null turn probability of nearly 35% against a target with a decent invulnerable save. When you build a defensive castle, you are relying on these high-variance, unreliable units. You feel safe, but your damage output is a gamble. Aggressive armies, like the Tau, reduce variance by increasing volume. The Tau not gamble, they drown you in probability. And it gets worse with what I call lethality scaling.
Scaling.
The Tau have their Monka philosophy. For a turn, their weapons gain lethal hits. They can ignore toughness on a critical hit. Aggressive armies scale up. Their lethality increases as their synergies kick in. Defensive armies depreciate. A Space Marine profile is static. A bolt rifle is always a bolt rifle. But a pulse blaster in Monka is suddenly a threat to a tank. If you sit back in Castle, you are a used transport vehicle losing value every second, while the Tau are a compounding investment portfolio that is about to mature all over your face.
This brings us to the inevitable conclusion of such a mismatch, sir. Audit Part 5. The Panic Pivot.
The Panic Pivot, the saddest, most pathetic dance in the entire 41st millennium. It's almost tragic, really, if it weren't so infuriating.
The Auspex transcript mentions using reserves to fill the gap if the backfield is threatened. He suggests, quote, another option for the backfield is if the opponent still has something super scary to bring in, fill the gap with your own reserves.
Fill the gap. Listen to the sheer defeatism in that phrase. The panic pivot occurs when the defensive player finally realizes, usually around turn 3, that their screen has failed. Their front line is dead or dying because they didn't bring enough guns to the actual fight. So what do, Scribe? What is their last desperate act?
They bring in their reserves.
They take those Terminators, the ones they were saving for their glorious failed Moscow walk, they drop them right in the middle of their own deployment zone.
To protect their remaining assets, to shore up the line.
To die. It is a strategic surrender. When you use a 400-point offensive hammer to patch a hole in a leaky roof, you have already admitted defeat. You are trading elite wounds for cheap shots. You are using a Terminator, a walking relic of the Great Crusade, to catch a lasgun bullet meant for a guardsman.
But the invulnerable anvil theory, using a tough unit like Terminators to absorb damage and protect more fragile units.
It's a myth. It is a lie told by people who consistently place in the bottom bracket of tournaments. If you use a Terminator brick to catch bullets for a Dreadnought, you are entering what I call an ROI tailspin. You are spending premium currency to stop pocket change. And more importantly, while your expensive Terminators are standing there heroically getting shot, they are not killing the enemy. They are not scoring points. They are not winning the game. The don't-lose mindset guarantees you will not win. You're just an expensive doorstop holding the door open for your own destruction.
The analysis is, it's overwhelming, Senior Auditor. The inefficiency appears to be total.
It is. Turn off the projector, Scribe.
The projector. But the audit isn't concluded.
Just turn it off, look at the file, the physical copy, look at the pick capture of that Terminator sergeant on the cover.
Sergeant Varus of the Imperial Fists, sir? From the Jericho Reach campaign?
Varus. Genetically engineered for war, encased in tactical dreadnought armor, a priceless relic of a lost, better age. He carries a storm bolter that fires mass reactive shells the size of a man's thumb and a power fist that can crack the ceramite shell of a battle tank. He was designed, from his very inception, to be the tip of the spear, to teleport into the heart of the enemy and tear the throat out of heresy itself.
Yes, sir, a noble purpose.
And what is his fate? Because of this advice. His fate is to walk. To take his 5-inch stride across an empty field, 18 inches from the nearest enemy. To watch his battle brothers die in the fire and fury of the midboard, screaming for support on the Vox, while he dutifully measures 9 inches from a table corner. He isn't a warrior anymore, Scribe. In that moment, he is an accountant's error. He's an asset depreciating in a vacuum. He stands guard over nothing, protecting a patch of worthless dirt that no one wants, while the galaxy burns just out of his reach. It's not just bad strategy. It's a tragedy, a waste.
That is profoundly sad, sir.
The universe is sad, Scribe. It is a ledger written entirely in red ink. But we can try to balance it. We can fix this deficit.
How, sir? How do we do that?
By force of will. Listen to me, you. Yes, you, with the data slate in your hand. Stop hiding. Stop screening. Stop buying insurance for a vehicle that is already on fire. Push your models forward. Spend your points on things that kill. Maximize your plank density. Be the aggression you want to see in the grim darkness of the far future.
And, the spiritual tithe, sir, the mandatory payment plan.
Ah, yes, the tithe. For the love of the empire. Tap that like, hit subscribe. It is the only currency that matters in this forsaken digital realm. If we do not hit our engagement quota, the Departmento will cut the recap ration entirely. And if that happens, I will audit each and every one of you. Personally.
Please, citizens. For my sake, if not your own.
You have your orders. Stop walking to Moscow. Start shooting. Dismissed. Pay your tithe, citizens.